I wasn't even supposed to be in his world, let alone his heart. He came from a family that would have done anything to keep us apart. But love, it doesn't follow rules. And no matter how hard he tried to walk away, he just couldn't let me go. Hi, I'm glad you're here. If you've ever loved someone you weren't supposed to, someone who wasn't right for you in the eyes of the world, then this story is for you. Make sure you subscribe and stay till the end, because love, heartbreak, and truth all collide in the most unexpected way. I'm just a simple girl, really. Born and raised in a small southern town where everybody knew everybody, and stories spread faster than wildfire. My name probably doesn't matter much to you, but if you've ever come from a place where dreams felt too big for your zip code, then you already know me. I was raised by a woman who never let life break her. My mama was all strength and silence, never complained, always moved forward like she had no time to fall apart. She worked 2 jobs, raised me on faith and grit, and somehow still managed to leave room for love. Not the romantic kind, though. No, she didn't trust that anymore. Not after what my daddy did. So I grew up thinking love was something you had to be careful with, like a lit match. Beautiful for a moment, dangerous if you got too close. I had rules, boundaries. I told myself I'd never lose myself in someone else. I'd seen what that could do. I believed in love, sure, but only the kind that made sense. The kind you could explain to your friends, that fit neatly into your plans. Nothing messy, nothing complicated. And then he showed up, the kind of person who didn't belong in my story. Not the type you imagine when you're sketching out your forever in your head. He was a question mark wrapped in calm eyes and quiet confidence. And from the moment he spoke, everything I thought I knew about love, what it should look like, who it should be with, began to unravel, one thread at a time. I didn't know it yet, but my whole life was about to shift. Because sometimes the love you never saw coming is the one that refuses to let go. It was just another Tuesday afternoon, nothing special. I was at the coffee shop around the corner from my job, waiting on my regular caramel iced latte, extra ice, oat milk. I wasn't looking for anything or anyone. I had my headphones in, scrolling through my phone, lost in a playlist and a to-do list that never seemed to end. That's when I felt it. You know that strange pull, like someone's looking at you? I glanced up, and there he was, sitting 2 tables over, reading a book. Yes, an actual book in this digital world. And sipping black coffee like he wasn't in a rush to be anywhere. He looked calm, like life didn't bother him much. And when our eyes met for a second, I felt something shift. It wasn't lightning bolts or movie magic. It was quieter than that, but it stayed with me. He smiled, just a little, and went back to his book. I told myself to ignore it. I wasn't in the mood for flirtation. I'd been ghosted 2 weeks ago by a guy who claimed he wasn't ready for something real, whatever that meant. But when I got up to leave, he stood too, and as we passed each other, he said, "You've got great taste in music." I blinked. "You could hear that?" I asked, pulling my headphones off. He just shrugged and smiled again. "Kinda hard to miss when it's Beyoncé." I laughed. That was it. Simple, soft, but something about him stayed in my head the rest of the day. I didn't know his name. I didn't even know if I'd ever see him again. But I felt it, that tug in my chest, and I knew something had just started. I didn't see him again for a week. Honestly, I figured he was just another passing moment, one of those strangers who leave a soft imprint on your day and then disappear. But life, as I've learned, has a funny way of bringing the right people back when it wants to. It was a Friday evening. I had just gotten off work and stopped by the bookstore to grab a journal, and there he was, in the same hoodie, same calm expression, browsing the fiction aisle like he lived there. We both laughed when we noticed each other, like the universe was playing matchmaker and we were just catching on. We talked about books, music, coffee, easy things, comfortable things. He told me his name, Ethan. He said it with this quiet confidence, like he wasn't trying to impress anyone. He listened more than he talked, and when he did speak, it wasn't small talk. It was thoughtful, intentional. That first real conversation with him felt like exhaling after holding my breath too long. We exchanged numbers that night, and over the next few weeks, texts turned into long phone calls turned into late night walks, laughing about nothing and everything. He remembered little details I'd share offhand, like my love for thunderstorms, or how I only drink coffee when it's iced. It wasn't loud or overwhelming. It was gentle, familiar, safe. But even in those early moments, I could sense it. He was holding something back. Sometimes he'd get quiet when I asked about his past. He never mentioned his family, changed the subject when things got too personal. I noticed. I didn't press. I was just happy to feel this connection. For the first time in a long time, I felt seen. And that feeling, it's addictive. It took a while, but eventually, the walls he kept up started to crack. One night, we were sitting in his car after a late movie. The windows were fogged, the streetlights casting this soft glow around us, and I just asked him, gently, why he never talked about his family. He went quiet, not in an awkward way, but in that heavy, weighted way people get when they're carrying something they don't want to drop. Then he sighed and looked straight ahead, like looking at me would make it harder to say the words. He told me he came from old money, a long line of lawyers and politicians, people with country club memberships and family names that opened doors. His parents had expectations, tight, heavy expectations. He was supposed to follow the path, Ivy League education, marry a woman from a respectable background, build a life that looked good on paper. I just sat there, listening, not shocked exactly, but something in me tightened. I asked, so what does that mean for us? He looked at me then, and his voice got low. You're the last person they'd want me with, he said, and the only person I can't stop thinking about. Those words, they hit hard. I didn't know whether to feel flattered or furious. I wasn't a secret to be hidden. I wasn't some act of rebellion, but I also couldn't ignore how deeply he meant it. He was torn between a world that shaped him and a woman who didn't fit into it. Me. That night, something shifted between us. The air got heavier, but our connection got deeper. I didn't know what was coming, but I knew this wasn't just a fling. This was going to cost something, maybe everything. After that night, we didn't talk much about his family again. Not directly. But the silence said enough. We started moving in our own little bubble, pretending like the outside world didn't matter. And in a way, it didn't. Not at first. We made it work, secretly. Quiet dinners at out-of-the-way spots, long drives to nowhere, staying up late watching old movies with the sound low and the windows shut tight. He'd always say, let's stay here a little longer, as if the moment was the only place he felt free. When we were together, it was magic. He laughed more. I felt lighter. I learned the way his face softened when he was tired and how he hummed under his breath when he was thinking. We weren't just dating. We were falling, hard, fast, quietly. But behind every perfect moment was a shadow. He never posted me, never introduced me to anyone in his circle. There were times I'd suggest we go out somewhere busy and he'd say, maybe next time. At first, I didn't question it. I convinced myself it was about privacy, about protecting what we had, but deep down I knew. I knew I wasn't being hidden. I was being protected. From them, from the life they carved out for him without me in it. Still, I stayed, because love can make you believe that being part of someone's world, any part is better than not being in it at all. He wasn't ready to choose, and I wasn't ready to let go. So we kept dancing around the truth, pretending it could last like this forever. But secrets don't stay buried forever. And love like ours, it doesn't stay quiet for long. We were heading toward a storm, and I felt it coming. I remember the day everything changed. It was a Sunday. He'd been distant all week, short texts, canceled plans, the kind of silence that doesn't need words to hurt. My stomach knew before my heart did. He showed up at my apartment, eyes red, hands trembling. He didn't even sit down, just stood there, like the ground under him wasn't steady. They found out, he whispered. His parents, his whole family. They knew about me. I asked him what he said, what he did, and all he could say was, they gave me a choice. Stay with me, or stay in the world they built for him. I don't remember what I said next. I just remember the tears. His, not mine. He held my face like he was memorizing it, and then he said something that broke me. I love you, but I can't lose them. And just like that, he was gone. No door slam, no drama, just absence, a space too loud with silence. It's strange how someone can walk away with your heart and still leave you breathing. That night, I didn't cry. I just sat there, staring at the door, realizing love isn't always enough, not when fear speaks louder. Time passed, slowly, painfully. Weeks blurred into months. I went to work, smiled when I had to, told everyone I was fine, but inside I was carrying the ghost of something unfinished. I'd lie awake some nights, wondering if he ever missed me, if I'd just been a phase, a secret he outgrew. Then one night, just as I was starting to convince myself to move on, there was a knock at my door. I opened it, and there he was. He looked different, not in appearance, but in energy, like he'd walked through fire and decided to keep the scars. His eyes were tired, but clear. I tried to live without you, he said, but I couldn't breathe. He told me he left. Everything, the money, the comfort, even his parents. He said he'd rather struggle in the truth than live rich in a lie. I didn't say anything at first. I just stood there, trying to believe it. This was the same man who once walked away from me, and now he was choosing me, not in secret, not in shame, but fully. I didn't know what would come next, but I knew one thing: this wasn't over, not anymore. Rebuilding with him wasn't easy. Love doesn't magically fix what's been broken. It just gives you the reason to try. After everything that happened, we didn't just jump back into being us. We started slow, real slow, like two people meeting for the first time, but with hearts that already knew each other. He had to earn my trust again, and I had to find the courage to believe in him, really believe that this time he wouldn't run. We moved in together about 6 months later, not into a big house or some dream apartment, just a small place with creaky floors and a kitchen that always smelled like fresh coffee. But it was ours. No hiding, no pretending. We held hands in public, introduced each other as mine, smiled when people stared. Not everyone was happy for us. His family didn't come around. Some of my friends even asked if I was sure, if love was worth this kind of fight. But I stopped needing approval from people who weren't living in my heart, because he chose me fully, and I chose him back. Now, when I look at him, I don't see the man who left. I see the man who came back stronger, who gave up everything safe for something real. We still have hard days. We still argue. We still grow. But there's no more hiding, no more secrets, just love, imperfect, honest, and loud. And sometimes, when we're lying on the couch in the quiet, he looks at me like he still can't believe I stayed. And I smile because I almost didn't. But I'm glad I did, because some love stories aren't about perfection. They're about choosing each other again and again, even after the fall. Looking back now, I realize love isn't what I thought it was when I was younger. It's not always pretty. It doesn't always come wrapped in neat timing or fit the picture you imagined in your head. Sometimes love shows up messy, confused, scared, imperfect, but it's still love. I used to think that being the last person he was supposed to love meant I was wrong for him, but now I know I was just different, and different scared him, scared them. But love, real love doesn't run forever. It returns, it fights, it stays. I've learned that being chosen isn't about someone picking you when it's easy. It's about being picked when it costs something. And he did. Eventually, he did. I also learned how strong I really am. I didn't fall apart when he left. I stood up. I healed. And when he came back, I didn't let love blind me. I made sure he came back for the right reasons. So, if you're listening to this and wondering if messy love can be real, it can, but only if it's honest. Only if it's chosen. Not just once, but every single day. That's the kind of love I've got now. If this story touched your heart, please like this video and subscribe for more real love stories. Drop a heartbreak emoji or a heart emoji in the comments if you've ever loved someone you weren't supposed to. Because sometimes love breaks the rules, and that's where the magic begins.